it was blowing a gale. It was a force 7 down there, and all their hats were blowing off all over the parade ground. But this one, this actual passing that this picture is of, the weather was good. Day, it was. Yeah. It was. Well, it was much earlier in the year. You see, it was in July, middle of July sometime. Can you not?
No.
Well, you wouldn't recognise him, Daphne, now. The one with the ears, right on the end here.
Because I can remember him with long hair.
Yes, well, he always grew his hair to cover up his ears.
I didn't realise.
He used to be very worried about them. He's not now. He's not so worried. You know, he just, you know, he's got used to it.
Yes.
They offered him either he could have a short back and sides and a long bit on the top, and he thought that sounded a bit 1940s.
Yes, I remember you saying.
Yeah, so he's had a crew cut.
Yeah.
And I think he looks quite smart.
But has he finished that
yes, he
first
has.
lot of exams now?
That's it again, Avril. That was... I took that one, actually, with my camera in the drill shed.
He looks enormous there, doesn't he?
Yes, he's broad. He's not very tall, actually. He's 5'8". With
how old is
enormous
he now?
16.
He's terribly young.
He's getting on for 17. I mean, he's near 17. Yeah. But
he's altered from a child to a man,
suddenly,
really.
in the 6 months.
Yes,
yes, from when he joined.
It reminds me of Russell when he did all this.
That's right.
Yes, he did.
And of course, Vivian and I had a sort of contest, and Christopher, fortunately, has done as well as Russell because they both won the same award. Christopher got the best.
Got it as well.
Yes, he got the best overall results in the Part 2 training. And he also got top marks in his written exams.
You're terribly proud.
I am.
Very good.
Yeah, I am actually.
How much? It's very good, isn't it? How many?
It is. 89% he got in his written exams.
No, but I meant how many in his...
Oh, Lord, I don't know. This was about 20-something in his particular group, and the whole lot of Part 2, an awful lot of them. Yeah. So, you know, he's done very well.
I can see the hat.
Yeah. Well, do you remember Viv saying that Russ... Yes, she had one from Russell when he first went down there. Their first cap.
That's right.
All the names on it.
Yes,
of the class.
Yes.
Right.
And they always give it to them. They're always allowed to take them, aren't they?
Yes.
But the nice thing about this, being in the Navy, quite often the boys do meet up again in later years because, I mean, I've got 4 nephews in the Navy and they're always bumping into each other. So they're quite often, they will see each other again.
Yes, I think it'd be funny, really, if he became, you know, in Russell, and Russell was a sort of officer over him or something, wouldn't it? But the other good thing is the fact that they have said his petty officer and his divisional officer down at Raleigh have said that he's officer material. And they're going to recommend him for Dartmouth.
Well, I was going to ask you what department he wants to work in.
Well, he wanted to be a clearance diver, as I think I said to you before, but he's been doing radar because apparently the diving really is not going to help him with the officer training. You know, there isn't that much that he can do with diving, being an officer. But so he's concentrating on radar. But they put down a choice of about 5 or 6 things when they finish their Part 2 training, you know, and it just depends what comes up. But as for getting a ship, well, you never know when he's going to get a ship.
It's hard enough to get into this anyway, isn't it?
It is now. Yeah, they're being far more selective than they used to be.
I know all about it. I should have had this book years and years ago. I'm completely sold on the idea. And when I was reading it, the description of you in your kitchen, it's absolutely exact. I couldn't believe it. It said,
Daphne in her kitchen.
Daphne, theatrical, flamboyant, chaotic and untidy. And I thought that sounds exactly... Loves to entertain, but likes to do it outside
like
her
me.
home. Yes, likes a great big jolly table.
We're both Pisces.
What is this to
Oh,
do?
so you are.
Yes.
It was a book called
The
Astrology in the
Stars.
Kitchen.
Oh.
I got it from my library.
So it must be true because there you are, we are alike, aren't we?
It was the introduction to the book that fascinated me because it was saying that in Roman times they used to cast, before they held a party, they would get the stars charted so that it was all harmonious and choose the right... Yes, it was quite funny.
That's how it should be.
Good idea.
And suggesting menus and recipes for the different star signs. It was quite fun. But Daphne was just so like Daphne. I couldn't believe it. I mean, all about her love affair with auction rooms and mixes periods, you know, her furnishings.
This isn't just food, it's
everything,
how
obviously.
you are as well.
Oh, yes, it gives you a whole
I want
bit
to know what I'm like for the
a bit
kitchen.
about above average intelligence.
What should she eat?
What should she eat? Well, a nice menu for Daphne would be Mosher cream cake.
Yes.
You'd love that, wouldn't you? Vichyssoise?
Yes.
Didn't I say
I
that
like
nicely,
that.
vichyssoise?
No,
Is that how you say it?
Vichyssoise.
And then it says something dreadful, Daphne. I never eat with you again. It says leg of boar in Terentian style.
Good
So
grief.
it's got
It's roast pig, isn't it? Lovely. Yeah.
camembert is one, and it says you like sort of bistro eating, red and white check tables, candles, and it was just so
What about...
right. I couldn't.
What do
quite
I
believe
like
it.
then? 'Cause
Oh,
I
you're
don't-
very homey and like country style things.
Well, you're Sagittarius.
You're Sagittarius, and you like shortcuts in the kitchen.
True.
Yes,
Open tin of beans
sounded
anytime.
quite like you. I was quite surprised. Likes wood and
Really?
yes, wood kitchen, no, that
Yes,
wood
wooden
kitchens
well, I do
rather
actually.
than...
I
Do
like
you?
wooden kitchen, yes.
Yes.
Well, if I
I
can
haven't been
afford
to
it.
your new house, but it sounded exactly like you to me. Sagittarius. And you would like, stuffed gooseneck.
Oh, I wouldn't.
Well, you wouldn't.
No.
Partridge with walnuts.
Oh, yes, partridge.
Oh,
partridge,
poor
yes.
They all seem terribly grand.
So
Well, this is a banqueting menu.
Yeah,
They
I
go down
see.
to
Yeah.
less...
So if you're going to invite someone important, to look them up their star sign,
A nice
and you might
boyfriend,
be on the
yes.
right track.
Seducing with your menu.
What about you, Lucy?
Oh, yes, I didn't
very
I never
quiet.
like what it says about me. I can't remember.
Well, it's a bit difficult, isn't it?
And you
Yes.
believe it implicitly, don't you, Lucy?
I love
Without
it.
a doubt,
Yes,
I
it
guess.
makes life so easy. It suggests that you give an astrological party in which you kind of set the table, you know, to suit the people that you're asking, and it
Yes.
tells you the sort of flowers they'd like and stuff like that.
I mean, that's a nice idea.
But that's
isn't it?
all
Yes.
fun.
Yes,
That
it
could be
is.
a fun
Yes.
item, couldn't it?
Yes, it is.
Here it
What do you
says,
like?
What do I like to eat? I want to tell you the nice bits. It said about me. I don't want to tell you what it
Well,
says
you,
about
don't, you only eat vegetables, Lucy, so what?
That's right. It says that we have longevity. I was so happy to read that. I believe anything. When it says the right thing, I believe it. It says zabaglione,
Yes.
crepes niçoise. I don't even know what it is. Pepperade, artichokes à la romana. It's nearly all vegetables.
Oh,
It's
yes.
extraordinary.
I was going to
Was
say.
it written by somebody who's not British?
Yes, Maria Kozlik-Donovan, a Hungarian
Donovan?
lady, I believe. From
Donovan? That's not very Hungarian.
Well, maybe she's got a Donovan husband,
Such a
and
nice-
she's something else. Yes. But some of the table
Isn't it
flowers.
funny, Lucy, because as I find things in the library, so does Lucy in her field.
Yes,
as it
I
were.
think you do.
I know you're
Yes.
drawn to them, aren't
Yes,
you?
you
This
are.
whole
I
section.
bet you
yes.
weren't looking for anything
Oh,
like
no, no. I think I'd gone for a yoga book.
Yes.
And ended up with
that
one.
this one, because it was so nice.
It's fascinating. I like the idea of sort of arranging a dinner party to suit your
do
guests if
I.
you know their, you know,
Yes.
their zodiacs and
But
things.
you could have such fun.
Cherry sourdough bread is so delicious. Have you never had it?
No, but you told me before that it was... it doesn't sound very nice, sourdough bread, does
Well,
it?
it doesn't because of the sour.
Yeah.
But to make it, I have to make a starter, first of all. And so that's what I've done here.
Is that the one you said your mother gave you?
My grandmother.
Your grandmother.
Yes, she taught me. It's an old American Indian recipe.
Yes.
And she taught me how to do it. So, really, the best thing to do is have 2½ cups of flour.
What kind of flour?
I use wholemeal flour.
Yes, brown. Yes,
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 yes.
yes,
And 2½ cups of warm water.
yes.
Not too hot, the water warm. And you stir it in, you make this sort of sponge-like consistency.
Is that all it is? For 2½ cups of flour and water?
That's
Yeah.
it, and 2½ cups of flour. If you stir that, then we add a tablespoon of yeast, and it's going to sit and ferment for 5 days,
Yes.
this mixture.
Should I stir all this in?
Stir it
Do
all
I
in.
beat it or
No,
just like that?
stir it in. And about 2 teaspoons of honey, Cherry, for the
Yes.
sweetener for the yeast. And that's it.
That's it.
This is the starter. And then what
Really?
I do is put it in a warm place. Do you have an airing cupboard or something like that you can put it in?
Well, I've got a bathroom that's always warm. That's probably the
Well,
warmest
what you want to
place.
do is put this mixture, once you've stirred it,
Yeah.
cover it with, say, plastic or even a towel. Here, shall I do it? And let it sit for 5 days, and you stir once a day, and it starts to bubble and ferment because of the yeast, and starts to take on a very sour smell. Your bathroom is going to smell very,
I don't
very
mind
sour.
that.
And then you've got your starter yeast, and you can just put it in the refrigerator, in a jar.
Yeah.
And whenever you want to make your sourdough bread, you take. I've brought some recipes along that
Yes.
I can let you have, and you just take a cup of the starter, and then you add your flour and water to
Do
make
you have
the
special
sponge.
recipes? Have you
Yes,
got special?
I've got,
oh, good.
got
Because I'd like
special
some
recipes.
one for
Yes.
Vida.
But what you do, you see, you take about a cup of your starter out
Yes.
to make your bread. You put the rest back in the refrigerator,
Yes.
and then you make another sponge with starter and flour and water, and you
Yes.
let that sit overnight. And
Yes.
that, again, sort of ferments and rises and becomes very light.
Sounds a
Very
bit
small.
complicated, but in fact, this is
It's
equivalent
not.
to, say, your fat or your yeast. You've made this.
That's
You
right.
put it in your fridge after it's written, after 5 days, and you just take the amount you
That's
want
right. You
out.
never, when you make sourdough bread, you never have to add the yeast or the honey
How long will
again.
this last when I keep putting it
I've
back?
had mine for 12 years.
Good
you just
grief.
keep replenishing it.
I see.
And then, you see, then the second day, the second step is to replenish your starter.
Yes.
And then you add your oil and your salt to the bread, knead it, let it rise, and bake it. It's very simple, very easy.
Yes.
Sounds complicated.
Well, no, it does sound simple. All I have to get into my mind is that this is quite separate from the bread you're going to make.
That's right.
You make your bread separately after, say, the night or whenever
This
it is.
is your yeast
and
starter.
that's your yeast to start, and this is the thing you go back to. I
That's it.
see.
And actually, you can add, when you're making the starter, if I had a cup or two of 2-day-old rice,
Yeah.
I could add that to this as well.
could you?
And that helps it to ferment. You don't have to then let it sit for 5 days. It can sit for perhaps 4 days.
The whole thing, it has to go sour.
It has to
Whatever-
go sour.
That's the reason for the
Yeah.
5 days.
And the bread smells fantastic.
Does it?
Your kitchen smells fantastic when you're actually baking it. And it's delicious.
I must say I like the...
I was quite pleased with the effect.
I'm not
actually.
surprised.
It's lovely.
Well, you know, of course, Lucy will recognise it.
Well, do you know, she had these lovely carpet cushions that I envied for 4 years. Now she's got a
that what it
carpet
is?
bag that I envy even more. It's beautiful.
Well, no, it's just that I had... This is very old stair carpet, which was down in my house when I moved to it, you see. And I washed it and then turned it into cushions. And then I got bored with that. And
She had it
so...
in a bath for about 3 months.
Well, no, what?
Rubbing it.
It did take a lot to get all the dirt out, admittedly. And then I was up in the loft and I found Sammy's old briefcase. You know those old school briefcases? Well, briefcases they used to be, not the nice
She couldn't
attaché
wait
ones.
to discard it, eh?
Yeah, quite. So I was going to chuck it out and I thought, no, I'll make that into a bag. Because it seemed so simple. All I had to do... I actually had... This was the right size, but having measured it, I've discovered that it was. And I left all the fringing on, you see. Yeah. So all I had to do was to cut off the...
I cringe
the
when you
actual...
say it was simple, because she said this
well,
before.
no,
you know?
It's true, it's true. Because you know how they're made? You see, they've got that. That is the top of them. You know, they open up like that.
Yes.
And then attached to that is the actual briefcase.
Yes, the sort of plastic
Yes,
or leather
and
or
it's sewn
whatever bit.
through from this side all the way along.
Yeah.
Right the way round.
Oh, they have sort of white stitching, Daphne, don't
Well,
they?
it's like saddle stitching, yes,
yeah.
all the way round, you see. So all I did was to get a knife and cut it down there, or a razor blade, something sharp, so you're not cutting this, but it's just trimming all that all the way round there. You're only cutting the stitching. And so when you've done that...
Well, now that separates the top frame from the rest of the bag, then, so you're just left with the top
Yeah.
frame.
Well, if you come... No, I've done it. I knew you wouldn't understand
No,
what I
well,
was
you
doing.
knew I wouldn't, so go.
I did a bit of a paper thing. Look, I'll show you. That is that, right? There,
Yes,
you
yes,
see.
Yes.
And then that was sewn on
top.
on top,
I'm with you.
like that. So all you do is
Just
cut it
cut the
down there,
stitches,
and
yeah.
all you're doing is cutting the stitches all the way down. Now, do you understand?
Yes, I do, and it is easy, although I'd never have thought to do it.
Yes.
Sometimes I think I'm simple-minded.
Well, no, it's difficult when you see something different. And then for the corners, the briefcase actually came straight across with its welt down there. But this was too bulky, so I have taken off. I got to there, and then I've cut that down there. I just opened that seam and turned in about 1.5 inches there, so that when that opens out, it's still fairly straight.
Yeah.
And I just sewed it along there all the way, and the same here.
And so you've re-stitched back
I
again.
re-stitched
Did you
it.
actually go into the holes
I went,
that was already
yes,
there?
straight into the
Stitching
holes.
holes.
I don't know, can you see the holes there?
Yeah.
But I had to do it by hand, and I used a triangular needle, and I used button thread. So all I did was to go through and come out, make sure I came out of that hole, so that it wasn't too hard. You'd already got the holes in there.
You put the lining in before you stitched
No, I
it?
didn't.
You didn't? Oh.
No, then I stitched the carpet onto it like that. Then I had already got the measurements, so I cut and made a lining.
Oh, I see.
Which
And
all I did then was to do one side at a time with rubber solution on the carpet, so it sort of waterproofed it at the same time.
on the back of the carpet.
That's a good
Yeah,
idea.
on the back of the
Yes,
carpet.
yes.
And then stick that in and bring it up and just tuck it in
Yeah.
underneath.
It's just stuck.
It's just stuck. Well, it doesn't need anything else, you see, being a lining. And it sticks, and
It's
it
very
also makes it
attractive,
quite
I think.
firm.
They're so expensive, those carpet bags, aren't they? I mean, not as nice as that. The...
Well,
That is so strong.
but you
isn't it?
see,
Yes.
and also, for that, I cut that out of the... That was already still attached.
Yeah.
That was, you see. So to get that clasp, I just cut that out, and then they've got sort of
Levered it off. You've got the
pokey
sort of-
bits.
Yes,
It's
they've
a
got
metal
tongues
round
on the
the back
back.
of it, yes.
Yeah, and I opened it out and just put it straight on to there.
That's great.
So
And it's quite big enough for a...
It's
for
an
2 days
overnight.
away. Oh, yes.
Where
Yes.
are you going to Australia now? Isn't that where they have
No,
carpet
but
bags?
you see,
Going
the
selling your
only-
wares.
The only thing I couldn't decide was whether to leave those. I've only tucked them in like that. The corners, which are straight, you see, because it looks quite nice when it's not too full.
I think that
Yeah.
spoils
Yes,
it.
it
It
does.
doesn't look so
I liked it like
expensive.
that.
Did you?
Well, Sammy didn't, and she said
No,
I
I
should have
could
taken the
tuck in.
fringing off.
It
Oh,
gives
no,
it a
didn't-
base when you do tuck it in.
Yes, it
doesn't
does. So I should tuck that in and
Like
just
a
catch
square
it there.
bottom. Yes, I think that's much nicer.
So that it'll stand more firmly then, like that.
Because you wouldn't definitely put a base in it at all, would
No,
you?
but no, because I like it because
You like it squashy?
the only reason I haven't done that, also I can carry it flat with my painting boards or anything in
Oh,
it.
yes.
Flat,
Yes.
you
Suppose
see.
Samantha wants it
Yeah.
back now.
Can't have it.
It is very attractive. They are expensive.
Oh, terribly expensive.
It's amazing what you can do with old bits of carpet, though. You could
You've got to have that
cover
traditional...
old chairs or anything.
Oh, yes.
Oh yes, it wouldn't be any good with modern.
But I must have been at least 16. And in the... we used to go out in the playground, all of the girls, because I went to an all-girls school, and the boys were in their playground, and we used to look through the railings like animals. But I must
I think it's always like that in
Yes.
adolescence.
Do you think
But
so?
you act like 16's very old.
But 16 to have the first boyfriend, I mean, today it's considered quite...
Well, I know,
isn't
today it's
16
12
quite
years
old to have your first boyfriend?
No, I wouldn't say so.
No?
What do you mean?
Yes.
Nowadays, or
Nowadays, it seems to
What,
be
a
that it seems that
but you
girls
mean
are dating
a
at
regular
13.
boy?
Well, any boyfriend who came up to you and asked if he could take you to the pictures.
Yes, but they don't seem to do that quite so much now, do they? Well, don't they go around in a crowd?
I don't know.
I think the girls ask them, though,
I was going
don't
to say,
they?
the girls ask the boys now.
Oh, they
don't
do.
Oh, I think so.
I think the most awful thing is when they come up and say, are you going to the so-and-so? And you think it's an invitation, and then you get there and absolutely everybody's there, and it wasn't you at all. He was just asking if you were going.
in general.
And you're all
Can you remember your first boyfriend, Cherry?
Yes, I can actually. He was much older than me. He was about 25. I was 16. He was about 25. That
Your
was
mother
too
must
old.
have died.
And my father threatened me. You know, if I
bet
was
he did,
ever
'cause
seen. Yes.
At that age, that's a big difference.
Yes, I suppose it is. But I can't remember any details about it, except that his face seemed to be awfully old. I remember that feeling.
He's 25, that's awfully old.
I can remember having a series of crushes from the age of, ever so young.
Crushes?
Yes,
me too.
On the sportsmaster.
Oh,
He
yes.
was so lovely. He just was like Robert Redford, small and blonde, and didn't know that I
he looks like now.
existed. Oh, probably wasn't. He was so awful. I used to pretend to faint. I'd keep going into swollen ankles.
I remember that my first date was dreadful. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what was expected of me. It was awful.
He's still like that bit, isn't he?
How old were you, though, at your first date?
My first date that was accepted as a date,
Yeah.
14.
And
And I went out with someone who was 4 years older than me, and my mother was scandalized.
Yes.
Because he was
Yes.
first year university,
Yes.
I was first year high school. And it was quite fantastic. But it was the talking about it afterwards.
Oh, that's
that
the
was
best
the
bit.
best
It's
bit.
amazing
Yes,
that once you brought the subject up, you're all saying, oh, I remember my first date. In fact, I remember mine. It lasted all of 10 minutes.
What happened? Really?
Well, this gorgeous fellow asked me to go to the cinema. When I came home from being on tour, I was 16, so I'd been touring a year. So I said, yes, I would go. And that was my first actual date on my own, if you know what I mean.
Yes,
Not
yes,
with girls,
yes.
the gang of girls. We got into the cinema, sat down, and immediately I got all comfortable. I felt this arm go around me. I thought, hello. And
be
there's this
expected,
very,
surely.
very gentle kiss on my cheek, and I should have thought, oh, that's great. And I was so annoyed.
Panicked.
I'd gone there to watch the film. So I slapped him round the face, stood up, and I had high heels on, and I remember I got right on the top of his foot and went, eee!
Evelyn, you're a
and
big
marched
girl.
out.
Oh,
I am.
Poor man.
And so, I mean, I saw him afterwards, and he looked the other way, and I don't
I'm not
know.
surprised.
No,
He probably only looks at men now.
Yes, but usually, at least the man or the young man waits till the end of the evening.
I mean, that's what I mean. I just sat down.
I was
so
quite
upset.
determined to get when I decided I liked someone enough to really want them as a boyfriend. And, of course, he went to a different school. I suppose we were all about 16. And we all used to have parties. I used to say, now you throw a party, because then if we invite, I can't remember the boys and girls' names, from a different school, you see.
You
And then-
connived, didn't
Yes,
you?
we connived
You
like
connived.
mad.
That was the exciting.
But did you
Yes,
get
it
him?
was.
Did you
Yes,
get him?
Of course.
Yes.
Daphne always gets the man she wants, don't you?
You're usually the wrong one.
I can clearly remember a boy on the bus that I ached for saying, "Haven't you got awful hair? I'd rather be bald than have hair like yours."
How awful.
Not awful.
Oh, yes, I did have a boyfriend who told me I was pigeon-toed.
Yeah,
And
they say
that was
such
very,
things.
yes, and that was a very good thing to be told.
I think, though, that I always had crushes on fellas that, from a distance, and then as soon as I
Yes.
had to have anything to do with them, as soon as I went out
Yes.
with my lost interest, really. Once I got too close, I
That's
didn't want
a
to know
very,
anymore.
very feminine trait, actually. Yes,
And isn't it
yes,
dreadful
all the
when
time.
they have a crush on you? I mean, you can't bear them sort of following you around, and every time you turn around, they're kind of there. Don't you remember that feeling?
Well, I do, because, I mean, I had an awful crush on Terry when I was 6, and I used to follow him around like a little dog, and he was hateful to me, and I said, "Oh, I'll never, never come near you, you know, I hate you."
But you
When I
got
left
him.
school, in the end, I ended up marrying him, but I hated him as a kid. But he's
I had
horrible.
to sit on the wheel of a motor car, you know, to try and get Roger to notice me at all. I sat in the lock-up garage.
You haven't stopped sitting there since.
Quite. I just sort of sat there, and if he said, "Can I have something spanner?" I'd hand him a spanner. But eventually he noticed I was there because there was somebody to hand him a spanner.
But it's amazing how your love early can turn to hate so young.